Well-known author, investment banker, consumer advocate, analyst, trader. Chris Markowski is the watchdog on Wall Street.
You want answers?
Exposing the lies and myths that the big brokerage firms, the mainstream press, and the government are pushing to keep Americans away from financial freedom.
You can't handle the truth.
Bringing America the truth about what really happens in the financial world.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're not here to indulge in fantasy, but in political and economic reality.
This is the Watchdog on Wall Street.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. In case you have not heard, I'm getting countless messages and whatnot. Obviously, people listen to the podcast. They hear, I lost my father this past week. I can't even say it. I lost my dad. My father's dad. Exactly who he was. And anybody who's been listening to this program for the past 20-something years, anybody who works with our family business, Markowski Investments, anybody who reads my columns. My dad happened to be the editor-in-chief of the Markowski Quarterly. He edited all of my columns over the years, going back to the 1990s when I first started. You know how close we were. I share stories all the time here about growing up, and I guess you're gonna have to bear with me to some degree, because I'll probably be sharing more of those. I will. It's just they're hitting me left, right, and all over the place, and I'm doing the best I can to process everything. I've been told by people out there, you need to take time off, you need to get away. I don't know. I don't think that is necessarily the right thing for me. I've always said that this program, it is some catharsis for me, but it's a conversation with you, and you're my friends. That's how I treat you, like you're my friends, and I guess it's a way for me to talk to you and to share my grief to some degree, and it means a lot. Again, I know I talked about it a little bit this past week on the podcast, and I can't believe. I mean, honestly, it's the messages, the emails, the phone calls, the posts on Facebook, my personal page, and also our fan page as well. I gotta tell everybody, I cannot thank you enough. I can't. I hardly ever post anything on my personal Facebook page. Every week or every day I post some topics that we're covering on the podcast, on the Watchdog page. Every year, I mean, I put some yearly family photos on the personal page. From time to time, I'll put a proud dad moment up on the Facebook personal page, accomplishment from my kids. But I do have to admit, I do like logging in. I have to admit, I like logging into Facebook to see all the people that I have shared time with throughout my life, people that have influenced me, have impacted me throughout my life. I love to see how they're doing. I've told you this before. I say one of the best things, the greatest things about my job is helping people go out there and succeed and do well. There's nothing makes me happier. It's the same thing. Reason why I like coaching as well. I love to see people's kids grow up and succeed. I love all that stuff. And yes, even the vacation photos. I don't mind that either. And we've talked about here on the social media and I've compared it to the pink slime from Ghostbusters 2 that seemed to flow under New York City and get everybody fighting with one another. Well, not this week. Not this week. I guess I can best describe it as some kind of people ask me how I am, and it feels like I am getting punched by Mike Tyson every 5 minutes or so. Basically what it feels like. It's like whack! I'm getting smacked. And I'm going to share with you a quote from an ancient Greek playwright, Aeschylus. He wrote that there is no pain so great as the memory of joy in present grief. There is no pain so great as the memory of joy in present grief. Now, I'm not sucking up to my wife and her side of the family, saying that those ancient Greeks were pretty smart. I don't know. I love citing their stuff. Honey, I know modern Greeks are smart too. But I have a confession I have to make. I have to admit that at times I almost feel bloody guilty over feeling absolutely horrible right now. There's an underlying narrative, theme throughout our culture, our news, education, whatever it may be, consider privilege. Who has privilege? Who doesn't have privilege? And I've said, I think I may have said this before on the program, maybe the podcast. I don't know. I've shared this with people. I was the beneficiary of the greatest form of privilege. That's parental privilege. I don't have bad memories of growing up. I just don't. I don't have bad memories. I remember back in the 80s, they had all those teenage angst movies there and the Breakfast Club. And, they're sitting around there and they're complaining about their parents and how tough their life is. And I watched the movie. We all loved the movie, but I'm like, no, I don't get it. Right now, everybody who's been listening to this program for years, how I sub-reference things. I've got, whatever reason it may be, pop culture, movies, television, all of those things, they sit in my head and they pop out from time to time when I'm discussing a story. And I sub-reference often if you're new to the program. Right now, it feels like I've got file cabinets. File cabinets are being tossed and turned over in my mind again and again and again, spilling out countless episodes of laughter and joy. And man, it really hurts. It hurts. My parents were beyond exemplary. And I work very, very hard every day to meet their standard. Now, trying to live up to my dad's standard feels like it's mission impossible. He's a guy that always happy, always a smile on his face, cracking dad jokes all the time. He could find humor in anything. Never, ever in my entire life did I ever hear him say an unkind word about anyone. He had a lightness of being that was so warm. And I sub-reference in my mind, I said, my dad is like a 1950s, 60s version of Ferris Bueller. Everybody loved him. Now, here in the program, in terms of and I've talked about this. I've written about one of my favorite authors, Nassim Nicholas Taleb, and I've talked about the concept of being anti-fragile. And we talk about it in terms of how you want to live your life. We talk about it in terms of money and portfolios. And the concept is basically being fragile is not ideal. Fragility means you're going to break. You're going to break under hardship and stress. The one might consider the opposite of being anti-fragile as being robust or robustness. Basically, and the ability to withstand obstacles, hardship, and stress. One of the neat things that Taleb points out is that robustness is not the opposite of fragility. If you take a rock, and it's getting hit by water repeatedly. Eventually that rock, as robust as it may be, is going to weather and get worn down by water. Take a good hard look at the Grand Canyon. So the true opposite of fragile, it has no antonym in any known language. Anti-fragile is when you take the pain, you take the hardship, you take the stress, and use it to make oneself stronger and better. So I'm going to do. So I'm not going to crater. I'm not going to break. Nor am I going to try to sit here and withstand the pain. I'm going to try to use it. I'm going to use it to try to make myself a stronger, a better man. Again, I cannot thank all of you enough for all of the messages of love and encouragement. I said, whether it be by social media, text, email, phone. Not only it helps me, help lift my spirits and my brothers, but I shared all this and all these condolences and these messages with my mom, who really, really needs it. I thought about this past week, and I woke again. One of those woke up in the middle of the night, and I remember this. I remember thinking of a poem, and first and foremost, I'm going to share with you a poem, and that's a sentence that has never been uttered by me ever in my entire life. I would like to share a poem. I was not a member of the Dead Poets Society. Back in high school and in college, no. We didn't get the football and lacrosse team together and head out in the woods and recite poetry. Just something you didn't do in upstate New York. But here's the poem. Nature's first green is gold, her hardest hue to hold. Her early leaf's a flower, but only so an hour. Then leaf subsides to leaf, so Eden sank to grief. So dawn goes down to day, nothing gold can stay. Robert Frost. Remember, this was used in the book and the film. S.E. Hinton, and the movie was directed by Francis Ford Coppola, The Outsiders. And the poem has a couple of meanings. And the first meaning is that we all know this. I've become really aware of it this week. Wonderful things, beautiful things, good things do not last forever. The other is the wonder, the innocence and joy of life in our youth. That was something my dad was able to hold on to the very, very end. That youthful exuberance. Again, I'd like to thank you all so much for everything. And remember, from The Outsiders, stay gold, everyone. Stay gold. God bless you all. And we're going to take a quick break. Again, it's the Watchdog on Wall Street show. Your host, Chris Markowski. WatchdogOnWallStreet.com is our site. Become a part of our family as well. WatchdogOnWallStreet.com. We'll be back.
song, and I'll try not to sing out of key. Oh, I get by with a little help from my friends. I get high with a little help from my friends.
You should believe in math, not magic. You're listening to The Watchdog on Wall Street with Chris Markowski.
All right, we'll get back to work. Again, I don't mind. I'll be sharing some stories. Again, our work ethic that my brothers and I have, that's all Roy Markowski instilled. He was he was tough, man. We're working for him as kids in his janitorial business, and he would, and I'd have a building in high school after sports, go clean an office building, and he would come and check on our work. And if there was a spot on a sink, if there was a tiny piece of paper in a corner on a carpet somewhere, he had a point system. But he used to sing songs. He's like, oh, we got a point. And he just messed with us the entire time. And if we got points, he deducted it from our pay. I guess we didn't have union rules there at RSM Cleaning Service. But anyway, I gotta talk about something that we've been going over here on the program for a while. You know what? Maybe I'll share it this way. It's all of the stuff that going through this week. It was also my son's birthday, and took my family out to get hamburgers, fries, pretzel. It's what Nico wanted, and bar restaurant in our town. And I get the bill at the end, and what was it? I think I had 2 glasses of wine. My wife had one. Bill comes $180. 5 people. And my wife had I don't know why, but she had like a black bean type salad with a patty on. I'm like, there were 2 vegetarian dishes out of 5, a couple burgers, and I had chicken. And I'm like, $180. And I'm thinking, this is absurd. It's absurd. And this is how it's becoming everywhere. This is inflation. I did some homework this past week. And again, I want to make this perfectly clear to everybody out there. You're constantly being lied to by the government, by the Fed. You put out these CPI numbers, and they're a joke. I don't know if you're aware of this, and if you don't believe me, look it up. If we were to calculate inflation the same way we calculated inflation back in the 1980s, inflation would be running at 10%. That's right, 10%. Now, with a 10-year bond yield at under 2%, you know what? We'll just say it's at 2%, which it's not. Holding on to cash, real yield out there is negative 8%. That's mortgage out there. People, this is, what do you want to believe about? This is consequential. It is very, very difficult. It's really difficult on senior citizens looking to get a safe yield out there that they can live on. It's been difficult for us for decades. This all goes all the way back to Greenspan with all the money printing that's going on. One of the smartest guys out there when it comes to interest rates, by the name of Jim Grant. And he talks about what interest rates are supposed to do. It allows us to connect the present with the future. It discounts future cash flows. They connect past, present, and future. And it helps us to calibrate risk. The chance of somebody getting paid or not getting paid. It helps you decide whether or not investment is worthwhile. We don't do that anymore. These prices aren't being set in the marketplace. They're being set by governments and central bankers. That's what happens in socialist and communist countries, and it's not healthy by any stretch of the imagination. And you know what it's doing as well? It's taking money away from small businesses, people that want it, that are going to need it, that want to start something up. Why loan money? Why put money at risk? I can just stash it there at the Fed and collect interest that way. Have to take a break. WatchDogOnWallStreet.com, WatchDogOnWallStreet.com. We shall return.
You're listening to the Watchdog on Wall Street. Bringing America financial freedom one listener at a time. You're listening to the Watchdog on Wall Street with Chris Markowski.
Songs today. I picked out a bunch of tunes today that my dad loved. He instilled that in me, music as a child. I have all of his vinyl, and my youngest son Nico, he's got a record player in his room, and he's starting to listen to all the old Beatles and Stones albums and all the stuff that I had as a kid, and all the stuff that my dad had. And that went from the albums. Everybody remember the eight tracks too. That's in my mind. Road trips in the van down to Florida with the stacks of 8-track tapes there, playing along the way. Anyway, talking about Fed policy and what it's doing. Judy Shelton, who, again, should have been appointed to the Fed, but, of course, she's not a part of the we need to print as much money as possible agenda. And she talks about how all of this, all of these policies that are put into place are squeezing small business. You try going out and getting yourself a loan. Banks aren't interested in that. You take a look at their numbers. Yeah. I mean, the 25 largest U.S. banks currently hold 45% of their assets in loans and leases. That's down from 54%. They're pulling back. There's no interest. Fed will, you keep it over here at around 2%, and we'll just do things that way. Again, why would the people in charge? Why would the people in charge, that club that we talk about here all the time, that club that you're not a member of, why would they want you to have access to more money? It just competes with them. They'll let us peasants have access to more money. Oh, sure. Again, your big doings out there, they have no problem. No problem. Corporate America is fine. Fine. No matter what, they're fine. They're entrenched. They're a part of the club. You're not. Anyway, it's been, I'm going to talk about this. It's kind of reflecting. You're hearing this all the time. It's been a year since, what was it? Was it March 11th where they shut down the NBA and then all the other sports started following suit? And then we had, the stock market, was it 22nd or 23rd of March last year? Bottomed out, and then all of a sudden you saw the Dow up 11%. The next day, it was nuts. But it was nuts also in 2008 and 2009. And you go back if you like, and you can listen to the shows that we had, the podcasts, the radio shows that we had a year ago, trying to calm everyone down. Yet you have to put things into perspective. You do. The reality is that you never bet on the end of the world. It's going to only happen one time. The future is oftentimes much weirder, more odd than you think it's going to be. You know, people say, how do you plan for a pandemic? How do you plan for this? You don't. You plan for everything. You prepare. You prepare. And this is why you put money away from every single paycheck, and you dollar cost average, and you rotate assets, and you continue to look for value. You continue to look for fundamentals. How many new far-flung, ridiculous, whether it be SPACs or new ETFs that got algorithms based upon, I don't know, social media posts. Do you really, really, really think that this is going to work? Do you really believe it? I've been doing this for a very long time. Do you think all of a sudden there's going to be some sort of stock market wizard, some Midas out there, that's going to come up with an algorithm that's going to turn lead into gold? You know, I get it. You know, oh, look at all those people, man. That guy made a ton of money on the GameStop. And this one, oh, look at this thing, the SPAC here. Do you understand these SPACs and what's going on with these things? This stuff would make Jordan Belfort and the Boiler Room crooks from the late 1980s into the early 1990s, make them blush. I wish we thought of this. You mean we could get celebrities to back our BS and do this thing? I mean, yeah. Don't be one of the greater fools out there. Don't be one of the greater fools. Do your preparation the right way, and that's what we're here for. Get to our website. I suggest up to you. Okay, sign up for our personal CFO program. It's absolutely free. You can do it there on our website. Go back. You can read their columns going back from some 20 some odd years. We've got all sorts of great stuff there at the site. Watchdog on wallstreet.com. It's one word. We also have a 24-hour-a-day help hotline, 800-471-5984. That's 800-471-5984. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back.
My Lord. My Lord.
Taking Wall Street's liars, crooks, and cheats out behind the woodshed. You're listening to the Watchdog on Wall Street.
Welcome back, everybody. Let me get into this. I know we've added a bunch of new affiliates out there. What our personal CFO program is all about. Things like what happened last year, what we're dealing with still today. Pandemic, .com run-ups, various different things. And we've called them. We've called them over the years. That doesn't mean we sold. I mean, oh, no, there's a storm coming. Sell, Mortimer, sell. No, because, again, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know exactly how the markets are going to react. Many people, markets tanked last March. What did they do? They sold. They sold everything when the markets were down, which is exactly the opposite of what you should be doing. You have to learn how to navigate storms, corrections, volatility. Have to. And you have to be able to avoid serious risk, including stuff it's kind of hard to explain, but unforeseen things out there. You have to be able to discern the difference between conventional wisdom, what's a conventional wisdom, what narratives are being pushed today, and the reality of what's really going on, the reality of the terrain. Yes, okay, they're few and far between. We do the best with what's out there, with finding the best safe yields, where they reside, how to apply them. They want to call us this zero rate environment. It's worse than that. Okay? It's negative rate environment. Real interest rates are at negative 8% right now. And you're going to learn how we go about positioning our clients to deal with the terrain. The narrative has been wrong for a long time. And again, many people out there, unless they have a certain amount of money or they're willing to cut back when they retire, there's a reality out there that you're going to have to face. A terrain out there that you have to face. And one of the things, we're not afraid to tell you the truth. I was planning all along, I wanted to retire at 62. Okay, you wanted to retire at 62, but this is what the scenario is right now. This is how much money you're going to be losing sitting in cash. And again, we'll present these choices to you where you can make a well thought out decision about your future. It's all about the prep, people. Got to take a break. WatchDogOnWallStreet.com. WatchDogOnWallStreet.com. Again, sign up for our personal CFO program right there at the site. WatchDogOnWallStreet.com. 800-471-5984 is our 24-hour day help hotline. We'll be back.
Ventura Highway in the sunshine.
Chris Markowski is the watchdog on Wall Street. This is the Watchdog on Wall Street.
The Association. I have this album from my dad. These guys were great. Remember when they used the song "Wendy" in Breaking Bad too? Anyway, welcome back, everybody. It is the Watchdog on Wall Street show. You know, one of the things that we do have at our website is also our newsletter, the Markowski Quarterly. And, you know, as I mentioned at the beginning of the program, my dad edited all the columns. All the columns that I've ever done, he went through and I got to find a new editor-in-chief for the Markowski Quarterly. And I got to be changed. I got to rename it. I got to rename it in honor of him. I got to come up with the name. I do. He was, go through, check. Cause I see from my writing, I write like I'm speaking rather than I'm actually supposed to write. It's not really much journalism involved. I don't pay attention to any of those rules or anything like that. But he did a good job reining me in. But anyway, I have to talk about this. This, again, most people, they're hearing stories about this as it's in passing in the mainstream media, and it's somewhat in the business news, but they're kind of glossing it over as well. I don't know if you heard about this. Is this Greensill Capital? This Greensill Capital was started by this bigwig over in the UK. He was, he worked at Morgan Stanley, if I'm not mistaken. Oh man, they loved him over there. I think he received the Commander of the Order of the British Empire. He got it from Prince Charles. Why? For services to the British economy. Guess who also sat on his board? The former UK Prime Minister, David Cameron. Again, it's the same thing over in the UK as well. Once you're part of the club, forget about it. You're taken care of. Well, basically what this company was, what does this mean to you? It doesn't affect you directly, but it's another example of just how crooked things are. All of the major players that were involved with this company, from SoftBank to Credit Suisse, and all of the nefarious dealings that were done with this company. They're talking about major businesses and companies that utilize this Greensill. Basically what they were was their supply chain type of financing. You got companies that may go under because of this. Again, these are supposed to be the smartest people out there. They tell you that again and again and again. But isn't it interesting? We're told, they put them on TV. They put them on TV. They go, oh, look, this is Harvard, and they went to Harvard, got his Harvard Business School, and he went to Princeton, and he got a Nobel Prize. Yeah. Do you remember long-term capital management? Those were a bunch of Nobel Prize winners, bunch of eggheads from Ivy Leagues, and they needed to be bailed out because they don't know what they don't know. They're arrogant SOBs. They never cleaned a toilet like we did. They never flipped a burger. They don't have a fundamental understanding of how the world works like you and I have. But, hey, they know how to game a system. They know how to game a system. That's one of the problems we have with our country today. Later on in the program, we're gonna talk about China again today and where we are in the world in regards to them. We've got to be more of a country rather than creating assets out of thin air and moving them from one end of the room to the other. And that's what we're doing. So, Credit Suisse, they just paid another $600 million to settle more cases in regards to pushing out garbage mortgage securities to your pension funds. Yes. Creating securities that they knew were absolute dog poop and then some. But that's okay. That's okay. We're making money putting them together. We're going to make money selling them. And we're going to also make money when they go down. Do you understand what type of sociopath you have to be to craft these things and put these things together? But again, don't blame Credit Suisse. And I've explained this time and time again here on the program. Credit Suisse is a logo and a tax ID number. Logos and tax ID numbers can't steal. People do. People do. And it's a fundamental problem that we have. There's too many damn people that have ethical bypasses at birth that are in positions of power. They do not have that moral center, that grounding, the difference between what is right and what is wrong. No. It's all about the bottom line. And they use that as an excuse in their mind to do these horrible, horrible things. We're increasing shareholder value. You're stealing from people. How does that jibe with the underlying health of the country over the long term? Now, there's no sort of long-term thinking. They don't believe in any of that. I told you this before when I used to go into the city. It's down in the financial district. I used to live down in the financial district. You got all these big, there's facades, these big buildings out there, and these big banks, and it's Brown Brothers Harriman, and it's Goldman Sachs. They're American flags flying out the side of their buildings. They don't give a damn. They don't give a damn about the United States. They don't. They never have. They never have. It's just about them. And again, life's about choices, okay? You decide who you are going to do business with. If you've been paying attention to this program, you know what these banks do. You know what they're going to continue to do. It's your choice whether or not you want to continue to work with them. Have to take a break. Watchdog on WallStreet.com. Watchdog on WallStreet.com. Again, become a part of the Watchdog on Wall Street family. Take advantage of all the great stuff we have there, including our personal CFO program, podcast, all sorts of great stuff. Watchdog on WallStreet.com. We'll be back.
You're listening to the Watchdog on Wall Street. Well-known author, investment banker, consumer advocate, analyst, trader. Chris Markowski is the watchdog on Wall Street,
You want answers?
exposing the lies and myths that the big brokerage firms, the mainstream press, and the government are pushing to keep Americans away from financial freedom.
You can't handle the truth.
Bringing America the truth about what really happens in the financial world.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're not here to indulge in fantasy, but in political and economic reality.
This is the watchdog on Wall Street.
All right, welcome, everybody. Welcome back. It is the one, the only, the watchdog on Wall Street show. Again, thank you. Thank you. And messages coming in on a constant basis means the world to me. And yes, I'm going to share them with my mother, obviously my brothers as well. And believe it or not, it does help. It really does. Anyway, I been doing this show now for over 20 years. Not once. All the shows. Even when I was doing daily shows, 3-hour-a-day daily shows for years, podcasts. Never, ever, ever do we give buy, sell, and hold recommendations. I'm going to go back to, that's when I started. I started the show. That's what they wanted me to do. High energy, buy, sell, and hold. I'm not doing that. It's wrong. I do a few television appearances over the course of the week to talk about issues of the day, things that I feel important. I get invited all the time on the big networks, the big business programs. Every single time, Chris has got to give us some of his top picks for right now. No, I'm not going on. I'm not interested. Why? Why am I going to share? I'm going to share that with the entire world. First and foremost, it's ridiculous. A buy for you may not be a buy for their next door neighbor. And secondly, why would I go telling you, okay, what we're buying? So then you can go out and buy it and make the stock price higher so I can get it for a more expensive price for my clients? If I'm buying a company, if I'd like a company, we're putting a company in a portfolio. We're doing something. We're following a certain trend. We're buying an ETF. It doesn't make any difference. I don't want the thing to go up. I want to own as much of that company as I possibly can at the best price. Because what the company does over the next 3 months, 6 months, a year, doesn't matter. It's what it does over the long term. You want to buy things that are fundamentally solid. You want to buy them below their intrinsic value. But anyway, why do I bring this up? Well, I get off on a tangent. The things that we talk about here on the program are the bigger issues of the day. I'm going to call it more of macroeconomic things. This is not an economics class by any stretch of the imagination. I don't want you to hit your head on the steering wheel and get yourself into an accident and put you to sleep and be drool all over your steering wheel. No. I'm not interested in that. No, we're talking about what's important for this country. But again, we talk about it in terms of, not to scare you, but this is what we're dealing with. This is what we're dealing with, and based upon this information, this is how we position ourselves. Now, a story came out this past week. Again, sad. It got no attention. Zip, zero, zilch, nada. Nowhere. Nowhere did they talk about the fact that the United States of America, that's right, USA, America. We're all about freedom. Oh, really? Are we? Do you know that right now we are ranked 20th? That's right, 20th in the world. 20th in the world when it comes to economic freedom. That's right, 20th. Back in 2008, this is when, George W. Bush was doing whatever Nancy told him to do. Yes, Nancy, whatever you like. And they're handing out these ridiculous checks to people. Oh, that helped. Oh, boy, that really stopped the whole fight. Oh, yeah, let's send everybody a check. It's a joke is what it was. Guess what? We're doing the same thing again. When that was taking place, they put out the Index of Economic Freedom, and at that point in time, we were 5th. And I wrote a column about this because that pissed me off. When we were 5th in the world, 2008. We're now 20th. 5th in the world in 2008. And I put it in terms of this. I said, can you imagine? Think about this. Can you imagine? They're going to do the Olympics this summer in Tokyo. Can you imagine the sheer volume of stories? It would be everywhere. Oh, my God. There'd be tons of stories out there. America's too fat now. What are we going to do? Imagine if we came 20th in the world in the medal count at the Olympics. People would be losing their minds. But, hey, we're 20th in the world in economic freedom, and nobody gives a damn. Nobody cares. How is this acceptable? How is this okay? And you take a look at some of the reasons why. Some of them have to do with property rights and the increased use of eminent domain. They also talk a lot about government size, how big government has gotten, the tax burden here in the United States, public debt here in the United States. They also talk about, the increased amount of regulation that continues to come down the pipe. You understand, people, we're not going in the right direction by any stretch when it comes to these metrics. This is bad. This is not good. I would say, I want my kids to be able to succeed beyond their wildest dreams. Succeed beyond their wildest dreams. Be able to go out there and you want to go out there to build and create. I mentioned earlier on in the program, I said, my dad started a janitorial business. He was a school teacher for 30 years, but he also had a janitorial business. Again, when I was younger, I remember my dad would come home from work. He'd have dinner with us, and then he'd go off and clean an office building, come home, tuck us in, if we weren't asleep already. Then he'd get up at like I do, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, clean another office building before he went to school, worked his tail off. Eventually, as we got older, we started doing buildings for him, helping him do this stuff. It was a business. Now, you work in certain countries around the globe that do not have economic freedom. You can't start a business like that. You've got to get government approval. And you've got to get some bureaucrat to sign off on whether or not you can open up your cleaning business. And you got to pay business fees and licensing fees, and it all adds up. Now, I've said it here about my business, my family business. I work with my brothers. I used to work with my dad, our old editor-in-chief. Guess what? I couldn't start it today. We broke off. And we started Markowski Investments in the 1990s. Got away from the big investment houses. We had a certain amount of capital that we had when we made that decision. And guess what? Would I be able to do it today? And adjusted for inflation, same amount of money? No way. No way, no how. Way too many regulations. Way too many licensing fees. All of these things that we'd have to do. No, wouldn't be able to do it. So all of these people that we now employ over the years, as we've grown over the years, guess what? They wouldn't be employed. Or, yeah, they'd probably be employed, but they'd probably be working for a government somewhere. Or better yet, a big, gigantic business. Regulatory capture, my friends, is real. When you see these things, and I've talked about this before, when you see these dog and pony shows in front of Congress where they parade CEOs there and they wave fingers at them, you're bad. You're a bad company. You shouldn't do that. You're bad. Anything ever happen? What was that? 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? Did they do? Was that the GameStop Robin Hood thing? Anything going to come of that? Anything going to come of the fact that Robin Hood just said, hey, you know what? We're bailing out our hedge funds. We're going to just stick it to our individual customers. Nothing. And again, I don't like it. I talk about these things on the program, but I understand it. I understand that certain companies in this country are, for all intents and purposes, omnipotent at this point in time. Is that healthy for our economy? Is that healthy for economic growth? Is it healthy to make our country more dynamic? No. But for lack of a better phrase, it is what it is at this point in time. It is what it is. I can bang my head against the wall and complain about this? No, I deal with it because that's the terrain. Got to take a break. WatchDogOnWallStreet.com. WatchDogOnWallStreet.com. Again, love for you to become a part of the Watchdog on Wall Street family. Take advantage of all the great stuff that we have there at our website. Sign up. Our podcast, which I do daily, I keep it around a half an hour. Newsletter, personal CFO program, all of my columns going back to the 1990s. WatchdogOnWallStreet.com, or give us a call, a 24-hour-a-day help hotline, 800-471-5984.
The only man who is taking on the Wall Street establishment. You're listening to the Watchdog on Wall Street with Chris Markowski.
Yeah, we went out with the Bee Gees, coming in with little Bill Withers. Again, these songs, I'm like, it's a torture. Yeah, it's torture in the sense that, again, I have great memories and 4th of Julys and file cabinets getting knocked over in my head. Said so hurts so good. It does. Anyway, by the way, in case you hadn't, I mentioned Bee Gees. I love giving little tips on shows and whatnot. The documentary that they did, I don't know if it's HBO or Showtime, I'm not sure, about the Bee Gees, and it was just awesome. If you're a fan like I am, it was really, really good. Anyway. All right, we talk about our competitiveness in the world, and we need to talk about the realities on the ground, where we are in the world, our position in the world. We're seeing more and more stories out there talking about China. China this past week. Then they announced that they have some ballistic missile now that can, it's an aircraft carrier killer. And they usually don't say much about the stuff that they have, but they announced this one, and there's been some stories out there. Saber rattling. We did basically a simulation, and if China attacked our warships with a biological, then they'd be able to take over Taiwan. We're missing it again. We're doing it wrong, okay? And China's kicking our butt right now in the sense that they're just outworking us. You know, there's a story this past week. I got a kick out of it. It's talking about the bureaucrats in China. This is actually a Wall Street Journal story, and how Xi Jinping is not happy at all about all this bureaucratic snafus and issues that are taking place in China. And all these butt kissers out there that are, making up stories in order to impress their bosses and all this nonsense. And I'm reading about this. I'm like, this is China. And China, and actually in their official newspapers, they're writing stories about this and how this is not a good thing. Now, we all deal with this here in this country. Did you ever hear any real talk about the bureaucratic crap that takes place in this country? No. Now, here's the difference in China is they actually are firing people. They're getting rid of people in government. if they don't do their job properly. That doesn't happen here in this country. You got tenure, you could be the worst school teacher in a school. Yeah, they may take you out of the classroom, but then you're sitting in a rubber room playing solitaire all day or reading a book and still getting paid. They're doing a better job. And again, I've mentioned this before. We've talked about this before in the program, and I get some pushback from some of the listeners. Communist China. Listen, this is not. It's not Soviet communism. They wouldn't be in Pravda. They wouldn't be talking about problems within the Soviet Union. No. They'd be lying to the people, telling everybody how hunky-dory and how awesome everything is. In China, they are shining a light on their issues. Yeah, it is a command and control economy. But as a nation, at least they have a vision moving forward. Now, yeah, I'm not cheering on China. I don't want to be China by any stretch of the imagination. We know who they are. We know what they're all about. But we're going to lose. We're going to lose unless we change our ways. You know, there was a long, lengthy piece by this individual's name is Mannion Lee. And Mannion's got a hold. There's someone by the name of Jin Canrong. I know I'm throwing some names out there on the program. Higher up within the Chinese government. And a bunch of speeches that this individual has given all over China. And these speeches were translated, basically explaining what China wants to do and what they are doing right now. Right now, they own what? Well, they bought after the financial crisis $800 billion in U.S. debt because we asked them to. They bailed us out. Again, it was self-serving, too. They didn't want all of the debt that they initially owned to go into a spiral. They own, roughly $6 trillion in U.S. assets? Think about that. Yeah, they understand there's about 6 million Chinese that are living in the United States right now, and they can benefit from that. You think that they want to go to war with guns? No, they know. And this is directly from his speech. Have a listen. Our long-term strategy is firm and unwavering. When China has developed to a certain degree, the U.S. has to accept us as an equal. The U.S. is essentially a commercial nation, usually not acting on emotion. Right now, the U.S. slights us. But when we are powerful enough, he will say to us, let's make friends. At that point, the U.S. and China will co-rule the world. This is my expectation, and our leaders as well. Again, this is the direction they're heading in. And again, they're pointing out various different things that they're doing here in the United States, the investment that they're making here in the United States, and it's pretty much spot on. It's pretty much spot on. They talk about investment here in the United States. Develop within the U.S. system. They understand how Congress works. Yeah, and they feel that, hey, guess what? We can get involved. We can invest in every congressional district, have businesses in every congressional district in the country, and we can turn things around. They feel that they can control thousands of votes and influence congressional members. This is directly from the speech. The U.S. representatives can be controlled. The U.S. has 312 million people who elect 435 representatives. That means 750,000 people in each district on average. The normal turnout rate is 30%, about 200,000 voters who determine who gets elected. Generally, the two contenders have about the same number of supporters, separated by only 10,000 votes or fewer. Therefore, if you control a few thousand votes, you would be his or her dad. China, if playing well, will be able to buy out the U.S., making the U.S. Congress the second standing committee of our people's national representatives. Does that sound far-fetched? No, it's not. We got to get to work, people. It's what we really need to do. Watchdog on WallStreet.com. Watchdog on WallStreet.com. Again, become a part of our family, the Watchdog on Wall Street family. Take advantage of all the great stuff we have. Watchdog on WallStreet.com. Be back.
I'm really not sure. The cop said a poor boy like you can use a break. We got you for the motel job and you're talking to your friend Bello. You know
Chris Markowski is the Watchdog on Wall Street. You should believe in math, not magic. You're listening to the Watchdog on Wall Street with Chris Markowski.
He walked into the party like you were walking onto a yacht.
Oh, yeah, another 8-track that was in high rotation in the Markowski family truckster, Carly Simon. Anyway, welcome back, everybody. It is the Watchdog on Wall Street show. Talk about China. And listen, I've got enough stuff here in front of me. We could talk about it for hours. I'm competitive. I don't want to lose. But I also understand. I can get a bipolar world. I just think that we have to start competing to a greater degree. We just do. We do. Again, I don't want to command and control economy. We know. I see some of the inefficiencies that they have in China. We've seen it before. We've seen them launch yachts and have them sink, and they've got cities that they've built that are empty. I just believe that, again, we're strong because of the individual, because of our freedom, and we're taking it away. We're taking it away. We're 20th in the world in economic freedom. Anyway, I got to get off the beaten track here a little bit. I saw this story. It was in the UK Daily Mail. Return of the taggers. New York is blighted with living areas looking like war zones. Yeah, there's graffiti's everywhere now. It's everywhere. It is. The subway cars don't look like they did back in the 1970s. They're on their way, but they're not there yet. But buildings everywhere, yeah, it's an absolute mess. And here's the problem. This is New York City. New York City is a shell of its former self. It was another story I wanted to touch on. I saw this past week about, again, I'm not kidding. Not kidding. It's garbage everywhere. There is garbage everywhere. It's piling up. Piling up. And yes, people, rats. Rats. Big ones. Big ones. And I thought about this for a second. I want to get your take on this. This could be a good opportunity, be a business opportunity here in New York, since tourism is just null and void. How about this? How about we take these double-decker buses? Hear me out. Those red double-decker buses that tours around the city. And we basically turn it into a safari. We'll call it the New York Safari, where you can go around, you can put people up there, and they can go around to certain areas. There's nobody in the streets. Dead. You got big rats, and you can have people going around shooting rats. It'd be fantastic, for crying out loud. It'd be a great business. The New York Safari, where you can taking out these gigantor New York City rats that are running rampant because you've got idiots in charge of the city. Now, we're going to get into it a little bit later on in the program. You're talking about, again, real estate and what's happening, not just in New York, but all over the country as well. But I'm cracking jokes and I'm making fun. I love New York. I love New York. Another dad story. I mean, it would take us down to New York City when we were kids. We'd get on the train from Albany, come down for the day and do the tourist stuff. And I was always amazed by the place. I really was. And again, it's hard to get your arms around. Like, so when I first moved to New York, that that energy again. Dad taking me down, moving all my stuff from college, moving into my first apartment. And that energy that the city had, it's gone. It's gone. I don't know how we're going to bring it back. And later on in the program, we're going to get into the stimulus package, which is going to save us all. They passed the package. Everything is going to be okay. No, that's an absolute joke. But anyway, take a quick break right here. Watchdog on WallStreet.com. Watchdog on WallStreet.com. Yeah, I'm going to stay on that New York theme a little bit. We talk about Andrew Cuomo. We'll pull in some little cancel culture and some other good stuff when we get back. Watchdog on WallStreet.com. Get there, become a part of the Watchdog on Wall Street family, our personal CFO program, all sorts of great stuff. We also have our 24-hour-a-day help hotline, 800-471-5984.
Oh, darling, I can't stand.
Bringing America financial freedom one listener at a time. You're listening to the Watchdog on Wall Street with Chris Markowski.
Welcome back, everybody. Yeah, it's I don't know when it's going to end, when people are going to get tired of it. I really don't. It's getting worse instead of better. We got this past week, Disney Plus has pulled what? They pulled Dumbo, the Aristocats, and Peter Pan. They're no longer in the kids section because I guess they have some racist stereotypes in those films. I don't know. They're in the adult section. They rated X now. Disney's got a rated X section. What, do they have an unfiltered version of Pretty Woman in there too or something like that? I guess. I don't know. They pulled them from the kids section. And we all heard about Pepe Le Pew. Yes, Pepe has been canceled. They took Pepe out of the new Space Jam movie completely, and Warner Brothers said that they just erased them, canceled them. Canceled. Pepe no longer exists. Gone. I thought about it this past week. I mentioned this on the podcast too. That it's like remember in Back to the Future when Marty McFly is looking at that Polaroid picture of his family, his brothers and his sisters, and they're just disappearing, erased from history. Yeah. Well, guess what? You know who else did that? Who erased from history? The Soviets did that. Yeah. Stalin, somebody ticked Stalin off and he decided to get rid of that person. Could have been Stalin's best buddy, relative, didn't make any difference. They would they'd go back and they would erase them from history. Like, get rid of pictures of that individual. They never existed. Yeah. That's what we have today. Pepe Le Pew, I guess according to Charles Blow, read this guy's columns in the New York Times. Again, I'm like I said at the beginning of the program, I am doing my best, my darndest to be more dad-like, more Roy-like, my father. I feel bad for people like this that just have so little going on, that are just so angry. People that have to see, take issue with everything. People that have no sense of humor at all. Well, Charles Blow wrote a piece and canceled Pepe Le Pew. It was interesting. There was a meme going on around there. Somebody said, thank God Warner Brothers canceled Pepe Le Pew so my kid can go play, that gangster video game out there. And, look, he just burned a hooker to the ground because he didn't pay. I mean, are you kidding me? Pepe Le Pew? And I thought about it a little bit, and I said, because Charles Blow said, how many boys out there have been influenced and have, in essence, become rapists, been influenced by Pepe Le Pew? See, I watched Pepe, and I never acted like Pepe in my entire life. But we all know somebody who did. Yes, I give you Andrew Cuomo. So I was thinking about it this past week, and I'm not a lawyer. I'm just playing one on the radio right now. I got to do the Pepe Le Pew defense. If I was Andrew Cuomo's lawyer, you can pull this out. Oh, sure. It's not Andrew Cuomo's fault for, what is he, up to 6 women now, for groping and doing all sorts of Pepe Le Pew-like things to these women. It's not Andrew's fault. Andrew, as a child, his dad, Mario, he was governor of New York, too, and he was busy, didn't get to spend enough time with little Andrew, and Andrew was sitting in front of the TV for just way too long, watching too many Looney Tunes cartoons, and Andrew was influenced in the wrong way by Pepe Le Pew. So it's not Andrew Cuomo's fault for being a groper. It's Pepe's fault. What do you think? Honestly, I didn't know law degree or anything like that. Look what I pulled out of my hat. Amazing, huh? Anyway, gonna take another quick break. Everybody, you're listening to the Watchdog on Wall Street show. WatchdogOnWallStreet.com. I got to get into that fired journalist story when we return, and also the carbon racket when we come back. WatchdogOnWallStreet.com.
You're listening to the Watchdog on Wall Street. Taking Wall Street's liars, crooks, and cheats out behind the woodshed. You're listening to the Watchdog on Wall Street.
Another one. Again, it hurts so good. Just tune in. It's the show today. I guess I could say it's in honor of my dad. But again, there's nothing I could do that would, or can say, that would just do the man justice. Just what a wonderful, wonderful guy he was. And I'm listening to this song, okay? I get Daryl Hall and John Oates. Kiss is on my list. And he would tease us. I mean, now it's, again, I've got the same thing. I'm constantly teasing my kids, my wife, my mother, you name it. But he would start singing that song to us. We started getting girlfriends and things like that. And, hey, Chris, is so-and-so's kiss on your list? It's just to tease us. It would teach another great, I don't care. I'm sharing them. Dad story today. Mom would send us from time to time, to the grocery store, the Price Chopper in upstate New York. And we would be with my dad. And my dad would go out of his way to make us feel uncomfortable or embarrass us in any way, shape, manner, or form. He would actually sing the jingles loud, like songs, to the commercials of the food items when we were walking down the aisles. I remember walking by the pet food. I don't know why this one is sticking in my head. There was some pet food back in the day. Chef Splend has more flavor in one bag. He would be singing it loud like that in the grocery store. And, again, young, embarrassed, but, man, it was all good. Anyway, I mentioned this story this past week. A bunch of, and again, this is part of the problem, liberal journalists. Let me just make this perfectly clear. Those two words are not supposed to go together because they can't. It's like oil and water. If you're going to be a journalist, you have to call it straight. You can't be a liberal journalist. You have to be a journalist. You can't be a conservative journalist. You have to be a journalist. Now, without a doubt, I am right of center, a conservative pundit. We all know I'm an equal opportunity basher. I go after Republicans, actually more than I go after Democrats, because Republicans are full of crap. They never do what they say that they're going to do. But anyway, we call it like we see it here on the program better than most journalists do. Again, it's helpful if you're honest. Okay? I can't lie to myself. I can't lie to you. I can't follow a lie because guess what? I wouldn't be a very good money manager if I did so. Anyway, I get off the beaten track here. Liberal journalists fired from the Huffington Post. I guess they fired, 1/3 of their staff. And I was taking a look at this, and the people that were fired, various different reporters, and looked at some of their columns. And these are the people out there that were jumping up and down and yelling, screaming about Joe Biden and shutting down the Keystone Pipeline and how great this is. Oh, yeah, not a care about any of the workers that lost their jobs, but they lose theirs, and oh, my Lord, it's just terrible. This is awful. So I'm not a callous person, but why don't you flip all of the things that you were saying about these terrible, whether it be coal miners, whether it be pipeline workers, whatever it may be. Why don't you get a job coding? Why don't you go learn to code, Mr. or Mrs. Liberal journalist? How about it? I got it. Why don't you, Mr. or Mrs. Liberal journalist who just lost their job at the Huffington Post, why don't you learn how to install solar panels? How about it? Anyway, while we're on that topic, finally, somebody echoes what we've been saying here on the program when it comes to the nonsense that is carbon trading and carbon emissions and this whole idea that, oh my God, we are just completely carbon neutral. We're net zero. We're net zero, says Google and says Apple and says all these companies. Oh, you're full of crap. Stop it. Okay? Stop it. Do you think Google and Apple are running their server farms? You think that they're running them on windmills? No. They buy carbon credits, which is nothing. Turns out that any company, no matter how it uses energy, can net zero its emissions by helping to reduce emissions anywhere. Native, a public benefit corporation that helps companies produce quantifiable emission reductions, offers CO2 indulgence. CO2 indulgence, Catholic thing, you pay away your carbon sin, by claiming website purchases are working with hunter-gatherer Hasda communities to protect biodiversity and forests in Tanzania. Now, you review these carbon credits for these large tree planting projects in the Amazon and ranked its effectiveness. You know what they ranked it as? Worse than nothing, because the projects caused ecological damage in other places. Oh, and going on down the list from, remember, George W. Bush mandating switchgrass. What was that, the State of the Union? They're doing cellulistic ethanol, switchgrass, and algae. What was it, 5.5 billion gallons of biofuel that they said had to be done by 2017? Yeah, not even close. Not even close. So, okay, we're going to create a business where we sell air. Again, this is going to be a fantastic racket. And I wonder, if the founder behind all of this, the man, bear, pig himself, Al Gore, I wonder if he's going to get any sort of kickbacks. He's done really, really well already, but he started the entire scam. One of these people, our company is carbon neutral. Yeah, sure. Yeah, they've got windmills all outside, covering the parking lot there. There's solar panels everywhere. Hey, they might have them on the roof, but you're kidding me? You think Google is not using fossil fuels? Get the hell out of here. Come on now, people. You're smarter than that. Watchdog on WallStreet.com. Watchdog on WallStreet.com. We'll be back.
Chris Markowski is the Watchdog on Wall Street.